Welcome to everybody who's online and joining us, and thank you for making the time to spend a bit of time learning about LinkedIn and business book authors. So I'm Jackie Lane, and I am the founder of The Book Advisor, and I'd like to introduce Lynnaire Johnston, who is the founder of Word Wizard and also the author of Linkability, 4 powerful strategies to maximize your LinkedIn success. Lynnaire and I worked together on her book last year, and it was through this collaboration that we came up with the concept for this webinar. Welcome, Lynnaire, and thanks for taking the time to share some of your insights today.
Well, it's my pleasure, Jackie. As you know, I love talking about LinkedIn, so I'm really happy to be here. Oh,
that's fantastic. Now, before we get started, I wanted to cover a couple of housekeeping matters. Firstly, please feel free to engage via the Q&A and chat. As I'll be monitoring this, I may not see your questions or comments and deal with them straight away, but I'll endeavour to cover them as and when Lynnaire is going through her presentation. The webinar is set for 45 minutes with 10 minutes for a bit of Q&A and commentary at the end, but as I said, I'll try and scoop up your questions as we go through. We'll also be sharing a recording of the webinar to all of those who have registered. And we will also be providing an ebook summarising this webinar topics, and we'll share a link to you for that ebook within the next 10 days. So that's kind of some housekeeping stuff. To start with, Lynnaire, I'd like to talk a little bit with you, or for you to talk a little bit about why authors should be on LinkedIn and what your own personal experience was, i.e. what were your goals for writing and publishing your book and using LinkedIn to promote it?
Well, first of all, Jackie, what I'd like to say about this is that my book is about LinkedIn, but if you take that out of the equation, everything that I say about LinkedIn today still stands. It just gets a bit complicated because that's the topic that I've written about. So I've been using LinkedIn to promote myself and my business for quite a number of years. And when I decided at the end of 2019 to write my book, I had in mind that it would help me to be better noticed in the New Zealand market, perhaps in Australia as well. And so you and I together spent the next 9 months producing my book, and I must say that I'm been very pleased with it. And I've been surprised at not the response it's had, but where it's had its response. I expected there to be most activity around my book locally, but in actual fact, what's happened is that it has given me an international profile. And that's something as a book author that you really want to be able to do. You want to be seen on the international stage. It is really one of the reasons why we write our books, is to get known and to share our information and our knowledge. And so I was really very surprised and really gratified to find that my book was being seen by people in very strange places. Well, perhaps not strange, it might be far-flung, let me use that word, places like Peru, other places in South America, the UK, places like Montenegro, and also up in Eastern Europe, places that you simply wouldn't expect. And that has really been a remarkable door-opening opportunity for me in my own business. Not only have I been able to share information with people who might not otherwise have been able to find it, but so I sort of feel like I've helped people, but also they are also giving back by buying the book, reading the book, and then making LinkedIn a better place ultimately, because they have used what I've taught them to be able to improve their own marketing on LinkedIn.
Right, so that's really interesting. You know, I think that thing that if you're an author and on LinkedIn, you can actually break down those international boundaries, which is usually pretty hard if you're a kind of mainstream published author.
Yes.
Okay, so thanks for that context, Lynnaire. It's really helpful. Now, for those attending, we're going to start sharing with you how you can leverage your business book, increase your book sales, gain wider exposure and engagement, and build your profile as an author. These are mostly achieved through your profile and posting. And this is what Lynnaire is going to talk about today. So Lynnaire, can you please start us off with how do you go about promoting your book on your profile? It's a pretty simple question, but a lot of people don't know.
That's very true. I think the first thing that underpins that question, Jackie, is the fact you have to have a very good profile, first of all. And I think that's really very important. And a lot of people still treat LinkedIn as a site for their CV or resume. And it is long past that now. And particularly if you are an author, if you are an author of a business book, you are a knowledgeable person, you are an expert in your field, and that's what you want to get across to people on your profile. So everything about your profile, first of all, has to say, I'm an expert. I've written a book, or I'm writing a book about this particular topic, and if you follow me or connect with me, then I will share my knowledge with you and everybody will be better off. So the first thing is you need a really good profile. That's the first thing. But in order to be able to promote your book on your profile, you need to have some really good images of it, and cover shots are always a really good thing to have, and most people use a 3D version of that. You can put a photo of your book in several places. One of those places is on your cover image, your banner image that sits right above you on your LinkedIn profile and above your head. So having a really good image of your book cover there is eye-catching, and it will stop people in their tracks. So that's the first place. The second place that you can get a very good visual image of your book is in the featured section, which sits just underneath the about section, which is your summary. And you can use it, again, you can use a cover image. You could use a video there of yourself talking about your book. You could have an excerpt, a book review, anything along those lines can sit in the featured section. Now, I also recommend having a separate section in your experience talking about your book, which has the heading, the name of your book, and has some book reviews in it. It has a short synopsis of your book, and then it has some testimonials or reviews from people with their names in there as well, so that people can see that. And then in the media underneath it, you have a link to your website where presumably you're selling your book. So those are three places on your profile, Jackie, where you can promote your book. You can do it via text as well, but those are the three visual places.
And just a follow-up question around that, you mentioned video, and I know that video is quite powerful for LinkedIn. So can you just kind of, I guess, take us, our participants through how important is video versus text in the mix of promoting your book on your profile?
I have an issue with this because I'm not a natural video person. I'm a writer, and so I like to write. I'm not so good at getting in front of a camera, Jackie. But I think that it's really important nonetheless, and I am working very hard now to overcome that particular barrier, because there are a lot of technologies out there now that really help you to do good quality videos. And I've also discovered you don't even have to be in your own videos, which is something I like even more. So, but the reason that people like to have videos is because they like to see you. They like to be able to hear your voice, look at you, get to know you, feel they know a bit about you. And that builds credibility and trust. And who do we always want to do business with? People we know, like, and trust. So video is extremely important, I think, for building your personal brand on LinkedIn. Now, I think too that it's really important for sharing information, and you can use video in different ways that people don't usually expect. And one of those is that it's going to now be available on your profile photo.
All right.
LinkedIn is currently rolling out changes so that when you get this particular feature, you'll be able to put a 20-second video where your lovely profile photo sits right at the moment, and people will be able to click on it and hear you speaking for 20 seconds. So that is an excellent place to promote your book. The name pronunciation feature, just getting off the track a bit, the name pronunciation feature is also a great place to do that. So, for example, the 10 seconds on that, mine is something along the lines, hello, I'm Lynnaire Johnston, the Word Wizard. I'm the author of Linkability, 4 Powerful Strategies to Maximize Your LinkedIn Success. Thanks for visiting my profile. Short and sweet and simple. But people then have heard my voice, and that goes some way towards building a relationship. And video does the same. The other thing about video, Jackie, is that people like to watch videos. People don't always like to read. And so I think it's important to be able to give people a mix of different formats. It's like posting. You want to use the full variety if you can. So getting a video together means that you can put it on your profile in different places, like the featured section. You can put it into articles. You can put them into your posts. They really do have a major role to play. But some of us just have to get over our fear and our technology barriers. And I am working hard in that respect, I must say.
Well done, and I've been there too. And then just I think for participants, a really easy way to grab some video is you may already have some existing video that you can edit, or when you launch your book, get somebody to video you speaking at the launch of your book and your MC or other people, because that then is all great video content that you can cut up and post and use as content. So just a few tips there.
I think that's a really good one, Jackie. Sorry to interrupt, because that's really great archive footage. You only launch your book once, so you want to have a record of that, and a video is the obvious way to do it. So I think that's absolutely imperative, because if you're doing an online launch like with Zoom, like this, then it's very easy to do. And the same if you have are doing one in person, just have someone there with a video camera or a good phone. Very good idea for archives.
Yeah. Okay, so the second point that we wanted to cover is, and I often, spend a bit of time with my clients around this, that most people get focused on, launching their book and marketing it and promoting it after they've launched it. But, I say to all the people I work with, start actually engaging about 3 or 4 months beforehand, because it means you can kind of leverage backwards, if you like. So perhaps you could share with us about, some ideas and thoughts around how to post about your book before it's published.
I think that is a very important point, and I like to think that I followed your advice on that one, Jackie, when I was working on my book. And there are a number of ways to do that. You can do it in a purely promotional way, which is talking about the fact the book's coming up, asking for pre-orders, mentioning something about the writing journey, some of the things that you're enjoying or not having much success with. A great post that you see a lot of authors doing is sharing their potential cover designs and asking for feedback on those, or who likes what, or making sure then that they're involving, by asking people a question like that, you're involving people. Now I did that and asked people about my covers, and then completely changed it and did something else entirely different. But that, I don't think that anybody really noticed that. It's all about involvement, being interactive, and getting people interested in your book, so that you're creating a demand for it, really. If you are a subject matter expert sharing information about your book, you'll already hopefully be posting about your area of expertise, so that you are building up a reputation as a knowledge expert and a thought leader. So it's no big step from there to be able to say, by the way, I'm in the process of writing a book about that. It's going to be out in September. It'll be available and and giving a bit of a preview about that so people know to watch out for it. So I think that doing it in advance, promoting it in advance, is a really critical way to do that. But you need to do it, I think, hand in glove with information, useful information in your subject matter area. So again, you're building up credibility, and you're not just going promote, because that really puts people off on LinkedIn. They're there to learn, and they want to be able to find out more about what you know. So be useful and share good quality information, and just sprinkle it with a few promotional posts.
I was going to actually ask you this question later on, but I think it's actually really important to ask it now. What balance should you do if you're posting or sharing between promotional posts like a special offer or come to my launch versus informational, educational posts?
Well, I try to have as many informational posts as possible, which is no answer to your question. But I would say at least 5 information posts to 1 promotional post. It depends a bit, Jackie, on how often you are posting. But say, like most people, you're posting 2 or 3 times a week. So if you were to post a promotional post once a fortnight, that's only twice a month, right? That's not overdoing it. But I do think if you try to do it the other way around, then you're not really helping yourself, and you're really making people just want to scroll past you when they see your picture in the news feed. So you are much better, I think, to put lots of value-added posts in comparison to promotional. If you did it on the basis of 5 to 1 or 6 to 1, perhaps I think you'd be doing fine.
And I guess, again, just rolling back to our earlier discussion, you know, you also, if you're mixing up those posts that are some are text and some video, even if one, you know, one's promotional video or an educational one, it provides a kind of different cadence and type of engagement. So they're not constantly being bombarded with just text posts.
No, absolutely. And I think there's 6, there might be 7 different ways actually to post content on LinkedIn. So you shouldn't ever be short of an idea. And also it means that if you find writing difficult, although this is a webinar for authors, so that's probably not true. But if you find writing difficult, using an image post or something else like a video or a poll even is a really good idea. But for those of us who are writers and really enjoy writing, then text posts, document posts, and articles are the ones to concentrate on. And what happens is we tend to get a reputation for them, and you particularly are well known for your articles. And I have no idea how you managed to write so many of them. But what happens with articles is they may not get as many views, but they get referred by people to other people. They're a really good source of information that has longevity. You can also put them on your featured section on your profile, and so that they stay there for people to find over the longer haul, whereas posts can disappear after a couple of weeks.
And that's a, you know, really interesting point, because I was very clear from the outset, and it was some advice that I'd received, was that when I started engaging on LinkedIn, I needed to be very clear about what I could actually manage.
Yes.
So I'm very clear. I do 2 posts a week and 1 long form article a month. And what those posts are might vary, and they're just the short, you know, 250 word posts. And sometimes it's commenting about somebody else's posts. But that's a cadence that I keep up to this day. And I started doing that 3-4 years ago. Because that's all I can actually manage. And the flip side of that is I've seen people get really excited and go, oh, I'm going to start posting a lot on LinkedIn, and they post every other day for like 2 or 3 months, and then you never see them again because they're exhausted. So I think having a very clear understanding of what your capacity is for generating content, and it kind of doesn't matter whether it's 1 post a week or 2 or 3, but work out what you can manage and then stick with it.
I agree. And the other point that you made there was about longevity. And LinkedIn is a long game. It's not something that you're going to get a lot of success at overnight. And that's why those people who arrive with a hiss and a roar disappear quickly. It's because they're not getting the results. Now, LinkedIn is one of those things that it builds up over time. It's a bit like compound interest. And the more you put in today, the more you're going to get out of it further down the track. But you need to be consistent, and you need to show up day after day, week after week, month after month.
Yeah, very good, great point. The third point we wanted to cover is you said prove you're an expert through value-added information-rich posts. What exactly do you mean by that?
Well, in a way, we've kind of skirted around the edges of that. What I mean is that it's not promotional. It's about sharing your knowledge and your expertise. So if I could use myself as an example, I write a lot about using LinkedIn and tips about LinkedIn, mistakes people make on LinkedIn, and various other aspects of LinkedIn. And it is by doing that that I've built up as a reputation as somebody who knows something about LinkedIn. Now you do the same. You write a lot about writing, and how to write a business book, and good tips for writing business books, and ways to make sure that you don't give up partway through, that you actually get the job finished, which is really important. So you've built up a reputation as the person to go to when you want to write a business book. And that's the kind of information that will help people. It's value added. Even when I'm writing a promotional post, Jackie, I will still add in information that people will find useful. So that's a tip that they can take away, that they can put into practice themselves, or it's something that is a new thought that they might not have had about LinkedIn, a different way to use LinkedIn, for example, that they might not have thought about before. So and because my background is journalism, and so I'm really quite fact oriented. I'm not one of these writers who's but wait, there's more. I'm much more wanting to give people really solid information that they can use. And so for me, that's quite easy, but I understand that it's not particularly the same for everybody else. But if you are an expert in your field, then you need to be talking about the things that you know about. Now, that may be a comment on something that's in the news, that's in your area of expertise. It might be something that's in your industry. It could be a change of another nature that you want people to know about. But you need to be seen in your posts as the go-to person for your particular specialist knowledge field.
And just on that, I mean, you and I, we understand the terminology and stuff around LinkedIn. So when we're talking about a post, they're what, 250 words, or how long are they?
As much as that, it's a little over 200, and if you add hashtags in, probably a little less. So if you aim for around 200 words, you won't go far wrong. If you add emojis in, it takes up more character count. So aim for 200 words.
So for a lot of people, I think, and probably a lot of people on this on the webinar, it's quite hard to crunch down, a major thought you have or a tip to 200 words. So you have to get good at doing that. Because it's got to be short and
writing, Jackie, as you know, is to be able to condense what you're saying. And of course, it's always harder to write short than it is to write long, as we both know. And so, yes, there is that is an issue or a barrier, if you like. But here's my suggestion around that: make only one point. Make only one major point, and then you can write 200 words about that. And then if you've got more points to make about the subject, you can write a series. You can write another 2, 3, 4, 5 posts. And then at the end of that series, you can combine them all together, and boom, you've got an article that you can put up on your profile. So I think that it's a matter of really chunking it down to what's the most important.
Right. Thanks for that, Lynnaire. One that I'm particularly interested in is your fourth point, is build partnerships and collaborate. How do you do that on LinkedIn?
First of all, you've got to get over yourself. This was a major barrier for me too. And it was all about the fact that I didn't think people would want to partner with me. And then when I wrote my book and I realized that this was not something I was doing alone, the only bit of it I was doing alone was actually putting the words down on paper. Almost every other aspect of publishing my book involved other professionals who were experts at what they did and about which I had no idea. And so these were people who helped with the design, helped with getting the publication printed and out there, had an editor, a proofreader, just the list went on and on. And so I realized from that it was really important to have a really good group of people around you who could help you achieve what you wanted to achieve. And because of my book, I built up confidence in my knowledge. So I had my FOMO, is it fear of missing out, fear of being found out, the fear of being seen as a fraud, whatever that's called, disappeared.
Imposter syndrome.
Imposter syndrome, thank you. that disappeared, and I felt more confident in asking other people to collaborate with me. And so it was a matter of finding people amongst my connections that I had felt I knew or had a connection with, or there was some synergy with, that we could then perhaps work together in some different ways. And so I've done writing collaborations, I've done webinar collaborations, we're on one of those right now, and different sorts of collaborations with other people that would not have been possible if I didn't have a good connection network on LinkedIn. So it's important to be able to connect with lots of good people on LinkedIn, so you've got a wide choice to choose from. But I think the thing about participation and collaboration is that you can always achieve more when you are working with other people than you can manage on your own. And that has been, I mean, I always knew that at a theoretical level, but it wasn't until I started actually doing it at a practical level that I really started to gain the benefits of that. So if I could just mention a little bit more here about connecting. LinkedIn allows you, because there are 750 million members worldwide, to connect to just about anybody. And it's how you do that that's important. And a lot of people will connect to a lot of different people, and that's fine, that's their strategy. But some people, like you and I, choose very carefully who we connect with. And so in order to have those people say yes, we send them a personalized invite. And you can do that very easily from the desktop, and you can even send them a video message and also a voice message if you want to as well. But sending a personalized message to somebody when you want them to connect is the single best way to get them to say yes. And you want to build up a network of really good quality connections. What do I mean by good quality? People who are active on LinkedIn, people who themselves have got a good network, and people who have a good reputation in their industry and are sharers of knowledge themselves. So in other words, people like you, people like me, people like your audience, people who want to be seen out there as giving information that other people will find useful. So getting a really good network takes time, and you build that up over a period of time, but it's something that takes a conscious effort if you want to do that well, because just accepting the invites that you receive is not going to build you the network that you want, because you're not in control of that. You need to be connecting to the people that you think are going to be the best people.
And I think a really good learning for me, Lynnaire, has been that, again, when I started doing this, I was, whilst I may appear confident, there were people that I thought, oh, if I send them a connection request, they probably won't want to connect with me. And I'm still constantly surprised, less so now, about the level of people that I generally want to connect with, and who respond and are really engaged and interested in wanting to connect with me. And again, the first thing they do is look at your profile. But I've found LinkedIn is extraordinarily powerful, and I'm talking chairman of ASX listed companies, people in America, all over the world. And now I kind of do it without thinking, but it did take me a good couple of years to actually be confident enough to do that.
Well, what's the worst that someone can do, Jackie? Ignore you. I mean, really, so what? And if they say yes, then imagine the positive benefits of that. So yes, it's part of a confidence building exercise, both in terms of your own wanting to get yourself out there and be seen, but also in knowing that people will say yes, because once you've got a few of those under your belt, it's really hard to go back to being, oh, I don't know, I'm too scared to ask, because you're not too scared to ask it. You've moved a step forward. So I think that being an author, and particularly if you're a first-time author, that this is a journey, and you learn so much along the way. It's not about, or just about, writing a book. There are so many other facets of this, and LinkedIn can be really important, I think, in helping people to be able to achieve what they want to with their books.
And I think you make a really great point there about being an author or a first-time business book author. And most of the people I work with, written their books, they want to share it with the world, but there's this almost fear of thinking, oh, I don't want to be seen to be marketing and spruiking my book, and
over yourself.
Get over yourself. But also that takes another level of confidence, because it's this whole thing, well, what are people going to think about the book, or what happens if they don't think it's any good? And it's all of those things that go on. And I always come back to the people that I work with, remind them about why they kind of started this journey in the first place. But I also say, don't think about it like selling your book. Think generally about it is that you wrote it because you wanted to share your insights. So if you keep that in the forefront of your mind, I think it's quite useful in terms of it helps you when you want to engage with people, because you're not spruiking you.
No.
Kind of are in a way, but really it's about wanting to share your knowledge.
Absolutely. And one of your authors who does this extremely well is Danielle Dobson.
Yeah.
And she is really excellent. Her book is called The Gender Code, and it is excellent for, she's great with her posts because she shares lots of, there it is, well done, breaking the gender code. Sorry, Danielle. She does an excellent job of both promoting her book, but also sharing information from her book and her knowledge generally, along with what she's doing out there to promote her book, the people that she's meeting. And she is an excellent example of somebody who's using the LinkedIn platform exceedingly well to be able to promote her book. Now, is this her first book, Jackie? Yes, it is, right.
Yeah, it is.
So she's a first-time author, and I think that she is well worth following to be able to see the kind of posts that she creates. And she does it regularly, 2 to 3 times a week, and consistently. She's been, on all the time that you and I have been working together, she's been on LinkedIn every week doing, putting up her posts. So do follow her if you're looking for an example of a business.
And I'm sure she won't mind. She's actually on this webinar. not that you knew that, and I'm sure she won't mind me sharing this. That when I was working with her on her book, and we still do, that I had to really encourage her to start writing anything on LinkedIn. And I just said, look, just start, you'll build your confidence, and you're dead right. It becomes something that you sort of...
I often get very good ideas for posts from Danielle. Don't tell me. Don't.
Hey, that's great. Now, point number 5, you say share content from your book and reviews. So what do you actually mean by that, and what content would you share?
Danielle's a very good example of this too, and this is something I want to do. She's done an audio version of her book, as have I, and so what she takes from time to time is clips from that and turns them into a video. She has the text of the book that she's reading as a caption, and she has it really nicely produced, and so she uses that as a post. If you've got a checklist in your book, or diagrams, infographics, that kind of thing, they would make great image posts. You can also take a point from your book that you might want to share with people and write more about that particular point in a post or over a series of posts. You can condense sections of your book. So you might have, like I've got a chapter on publishing in my book, and so you might condense that down into an article that is just about publishing. And you might then want to do a video or a reading from your book, video reading of your book. That's a possibility.
That's a good idea.
There are plenty of opportunities. Then what about book reviews? Other people writing nice things or saying nice things about you as well, and putting those into posts or on your featured section of your profile, because social proof is really important, as we all know. So having other people say nice things about your book is really important. And one trick I learned from an author in the UK, John Asperian, is to always ask people who buy your book, when they tell you they bought your book, is to take a photo of themselves holding your book, because you can turn that and any nice words they might have said about it into a video. And that's something that I'm working on at the moment to try and do that. So there are endless options for using content from your book. And it doesn't matter whether you're using it in advance or afterwards, Jackie, because you could use it in advance to say, this is the kind of thing that's going to be covered in my book. Or if you want to learn more about this, my book will be out on whatever date it is, and tell people where they can buy your book. That's always exceedingly useful too.
That's great. And I think also in terms of, content and reviews, again, one of the things I work with people a lot on is getting, securing a number of endorsements for their book, both before it's published so that they can go in and on the book, and afterwards, because each endorsement could be a post.
Yes.
And that's a great thing. And also they can be put onto your website.
Yes.
And also, again, any media that you get about your book, whatever the media, newspaper, TV, radio, again, that's more content that you can share, in posts and things, which means you're not having to constantly create and write. You can just repurpose other things that are out there.
Yeah. Oh goodness, oh look how nice of somebody to do this about my book. Isn't that lovely? And really, yeah, absolutely. And if they've posted about it as well, then that's really useful. And I'm surprised about the number of people who do post about my book, and I just love that. I think that's really nice because it's unsolicited, and it gives you a really good feeling.
Yeah, isn't that lovely? So we've actually covered our 5 quick questions, which is really good. So I just wouldn't mind going back to a question we said, and it's a more general question, and I know a lot of people ask me this. What's a good number of posts or engagements to do a week if you want to be more active on LinkedIn? And I guess part of that question is, without going too much into it, what frequency helps to get better visibility on LinkedIn?
Well, certainly being there consistently and regularly does that. Overdoing it is a bad thing as well. So my approach to this is around 3 times a week. So perhaps 2 during the week and 1 at the weekends. A lot of people think the weekends is not a good time to be posting, but in fact, I've had some really good results with weekend ones. And you can be a little more casual, a little more behind the scenes, I think, with your posts as well. And so don't forget that Saturdays and Sundays are where a lot of business people might be catching up with their LinkedIn where they've missed during the week, and you want your post to be right there for them to see that. So weekend is good. So it's about 3 times a week. Now that's just from your personal profile, Jackie, and we haven't talked about cover company pages at all, which I think is always a useful thing to do, is to set up a company page for your book. So that people, and there again, you've got a whole nother range of content that you can use there that is really able to help your brand. And I think that that's a really important thing for people to remember, that company pages can also be author pages, dedicated book pages, which is what I use one of mine for.
Okay, and I've got a really great question from Nancy, and I can't show your book, Nancy, I don't have it on my desk, but Nancy actually launched her book at the beginning of COVID. So you had yours at the end.
I did.
That was a really challenging time. And so she's got a question: how long can you or do you keep repurposing and promoting your book with the value posts? Is there a time frame when your book is old news? Basically, how do you refresh and relaunch if you've been through a period like COVID where you kind of couldn't get traction?
I think the thing to do is to then talk about things that have changed since and this is particularly useful for someone like me, where LinkedIn is constantly changing. Look at new ways to talk about how the information in your book has been used. So, for example, a lot of people went onto LinkedIn during COVID last year, which meant there was a whole new audience, which means that you can then repurpose your content, because don't for a minute think that everybody has seen it all the first time. So if you've used content once or twice even, you could repackage it and use it again. But I think there are two things there. So one is the repurposing and repackaging, and you're putting it into different formats. And the second point about that is updating it. Okay, so in my book, I talked about X, Y, and Z. Now that's still valid, but LinkedIn has changed A, B, and C. So this is what you do with that and how you make the most of that. So still using the main points from your book and being careful not to say that my book is now out of date because this has changed, because it won't. In most people's cases, it won't have. It's just in mine. But tying it in with news events, tying it in with something that's going on in the world. And okay, it may not be to COVID. It could be something else. It could be the economy. It could be what's happening locally. It could be in the industry the book's about, or even then talking about something from the book and repurposing it for a particular industry. Could be tourism, could be hospitality, could be real estate, whatever it might happen to be.
Great points. And I think another thing, Lynnaire, and this is what a lot of people also don't understand, and you might like to share this, that people think that when you post a post that everybody that you're connected to sees it.
Wouldn't that be nice, Jackie?
So perhaps, and I think this, Nancy, this goes to your point, is that you might be a bit sick of posting your stuff, but don't for a moment think that all your connections have seen it. Even it might have only been like 15 or 20% of your connections have seen what you've posted. So Lynnaire, you know a bit more about how LinkedIn, this thing around how many of your connections see it and don't.
Yes, well, if about a third of your connections see your post, and that's what's called a view number, then your post is done quite well. If it's higher than that, then that's excellent, even better. But what drives that, Jackie, is engagement. And that's where other people comment on your post and start a dialogue. And that's part of what the algorithm looks for, is for people engaging, because that's, again, social proof, and LinkedIn then sees that as a good post to send to more people, so it will then send it out further. The other thing about view numbers that to remember is that it can be really arbitrary. Like for one example, I had a post on my company page 3 weeks ago that got 600 views. Now I've got 1,000 followers, so that's not bad really. But then my next post got 63,000 views. Now there was no accounting for that, and about similar comment numbers. But one of the things that you can do is to get people to what they call stop the scroll, which is another aspect of the algorithm and what it measures, is how long people take to read or watch your post. And if they've stopped on your post because it's text or video or a document, then that also will help boost your post. Don't for a moment think that LinkedIn views everything the same way. The number of views you get on a video is different from the views you get on any other kind of post. So don't try to compare apples with pears on that one. If you're going to compare your videos, compare them with other videos you've done, not on against other posts.
Okay, thanks. Now I've got few questions coming through for you, Lynnaire, which is fantastic.
All right.
What do you this is from Kylie Ross. What do you think of the LinkedIn Live feature to promote your book and sharing your knowledge as a subject matter expert?
All right. First of all, it's quite hard to get LinkedIn Live. Only a few people generally have got it, and you have to apply for it. Secondly, the research shows that the engagement numbers on LinkedIn Live is very low. And the problem with that then is it comes and goes. And what you want to be doing really is something that has more longevity to it. So I'm not a great fan of LinkedIn Live. I don't watch them particularly because you don't often get notifications about them, or I don't see the notifications, would be more accurate. And so it just pops up on my screen that so-and-so is live now. Well, I might be busy doing something else. In fact, I will be busy doing something else, and I'm very unlikely to want to stop and do that. So I don't think that LinkedIn Live works particularly well unless you happen to be the guest. If you are the guest on someone else's LinkedIn Live, then that might have legs. But trying to do it yourself and deal with all the technology and all the other thing, the promotion of it and everything else that goes with putting something together like that, I think your efforts will be better spent elsewhere.
Great insight. Dave Stokes has got a question. Oh, it's flicked up. How do we go about choosing keywords, search words to build an interested connection tribe on LinkedIn?
I think you be yourself. I think you just be authentic. You talk about what you do. You talk about who you serve. I think that if you look at it only from a what are the keywords that are going to be picked up angle, then you're missing the mark, because you really, what you want to be doing is talking to people, and you want to be building those relationships. And people don't build relationships with keywords. Yes, they're important, but what's really important is the relationship with people. So I think that if, like Dave, as we both know, is an audiobook producer, and in fact produced my audiobook. He might have done Danielle's as well, I'm not sure. But he is very knowledgeable at what he does. And so in his LinkedIn profile, he will have words that talk about his abilities and his skills, because that's the place to do it. Showcase your talents and abilities on your LinkedIn profile. And just by the nature of doing that, then the algorithm will pick up those keywords, or what it sees as the keywords, and put you into more searches. But the key to this is to have an outrageously good profile to begin with.
Interesting. And Nancy's asked about hashtags and are they relevant? I mean, before I go to you, I've got a couple of views about hashtags and SEO type stuff. I think in most posts you should have kind of your standard 5 hashtags, but I'm a great one for newsjacking. So if I've got if I want to make a comment about something that's newsworthy or in the news, I would pick those and hashtag them as well, because that just aids in random searches. I don't do it all the time, but where I think that there's an opportunity to surf the wave of a news story, I'm kind of known for doing that, and it does increase your exposure. So I think you would, and it goes back to, I think, Dave, your point about SEO and stuff like that. I think everyone should have really a series of main hashtags that they use that are really related to what they offer. And then if you're smart enough, you can do some newsjacking through some smart hashtagging. But I use them maybe 1 out of every 3 or 4 posts. Don't know about you, Lynnaire. What's your feedback?
My thoughts around this: no more than 9 hashtags, and don't forget they take up character space on your post, so you may want to have fewer than that, but between 3 and 9. And mix your hashtags up. So choose ones that have got millions and millions of followers, as well as ones that relate just to you. I have a hashtag that I put on all of my posts that is hashtag Lynnaire, and then it says in brackets afterwards, follow me for LinkedIn tips. And that's a really good way to build up your own kind of network of people who specifically follow you. So anytime your hashtag comes up in their feed, then they're more likely to see your post. So definitely have your own hashtag. It could be your book, could be a hashtag as well, and start to build a following just around that. But mainly 3 to 9 hashtags is all you need on any post, but I recommend having them on all posts.
Okay, we've got a question here about going back to LinkedIn Live. Someone says, we can't seem to get LinkedIn Live to approve us. What are your tips?
Patience, really, and also reapplying. I've heard of people who now I don't have LinkedIn Live, so let's just be clear. I'm a writer. Why would I have LinkedIn Live? I want the newsletter feature. That's what I'm hanging out for. Anyway, so reapply and reapply. Be the squeaky wheel. I think is probably one thing, but also just be patient, because it does take considerable amount of time, and the number of people who get LinkedIn Live is really small.
Okay. Another interesting question, and I know the answer, but I'm going to let you answer it. Which comes first, the post or the connection request, or is it done in parallel?
Whoa, I think what comes first is a profile. I've always thought what comes first is a profile. When you've got a good profile, the connection requests can then come, and then oh my goodness me, I don't really know, Jackie, is the answer to this one. I do think probably in parallel. So if you've got a really good profile, you can start posting and you can start connecting and start moving those up at the same time. I think that if you're connecting with somebody, then they look at your profile and they see you're busy, see you're active and you've got posts up, then they're more likely to comment and engage with you straight away. So perhaps maybe I'm erring on the side of the post first here. Sounds a bit like it, doesn't it?
Yeah. Hey, look, Lynnaire, we're a bit over time, and I'm a Virgo, so you know we're 4 minutes over time.
Okay.
Hey, look, thank you so much for your great insights there. Just a reminder to everybody that you will be getting a link to the recording, and we will be putting this into a ebook and sending it out to you in the next 10 days. And what I'd like to suggest is that if you're not already, you should connect with Lynnaire and I on LinkedIn and follow us. And if you're looking to write and publish a business book, get in contact with me if you aren't already. And also if you want to learn more about how to leverage LinkedIn better, contact Lynnaire and buy her book. Via her website, which is www.wordwizard.co.nz. So thank you, everybody. Have a great day, and would love your feedback. And yeah, go and be LinkedIn happy.
Thanks so much, Jackie. It's been a pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Bye.